Now we're going to introduce our next guest. Our next guest, I read his book and was absolutely impressed with it. Called him and asked him to be on the show, and it's taken me 5 months to get him here. Chuck Cooper. Chuck, thank you so much for being here, buddy.
It is great to be with you, Joe.
And so the book, Building a Multi-Generational Business on Trust, Respect, and Valuing People, it seemed like a whole bunch of yoo-hoo. Matter of fact, I think I read about half of it or skipped through the half. I sent you an email and said, Chuck, this book is boring.
I did. I received,
you were so respectful to me.
I responded very quickly.
Yeah. You did. And then I read the rest of the book.
Okay.
And it was great.
Well, thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Let's back up a little bit, Chuck. What is it that you do, my friend? Kind of fill everybody in on your background.
My background is I am a serial recovering entrepreneur. I have been involved in ownership of 6 different businesses over the years. Grew up in a family-owned business in Illinois and relocated my family to Charlotte about 23 years ago. And really,
you're one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys.
Okay, that's all right. So is everybody in this room, so that's all right.
Yes, I was tired of the short story to that, Joe, is my parents retired and moved to Arizona. And my wife and I were visiting them in February. It's 82 degrees on the last day we're there and sunshine. And I know coming back home, it's going to be 0 when we land. And I told my wife, I said, we are smarter than this. And within within 5 months, we had bought a house in Charlotte. So
Great.
It was a great move.
So I'm a little confused because I go to the Google, I Google you, right? And there's all manner of stuff about Chuck Cooper. So I see WhiteWater Consulting.
Right.
And I'm curious, what is that?
WhiteWater Consulting is essentially a business consulting practice that specializes in human resources for small and mid-sized companies. So we basically, we are essentially a full-service HR department for our clients. But the difference we have is the way our model works is I basically it's a hub and spoke system. So I'm basically the hub as a consultant. So I work with my clients to identify the challenges they have. And then I use my amazing network of subject matter experts to be the solution providers to this.
So instead of me going straight to Carolyn and not knowing if her expertise fits for my business, I can come to you and you'll say, yes, Joe, she can help you with 1, 2, and 3.
Correct. And we look at different models. So you can build an HR team internally if you choose to. You can hire and do kind of an outsource or a fractional role. Or in today's world, you can also do the PEO and outsource your entire HR department.
Okay. So now I read your book.
Okay.
Okay. Let's ignore the first 2 chapters because I was falling asleep.
Understand.
What you did, though, in the first 2 chapters is remind me how smart you are. Okay? So I'm going to give you credit because I'm easy to be bored. You understand?
Understand.
But there is a chapter in here that was really impressive, and I think I told you this, where you talk about the different generations, and you do it in a way that is so easy to read and understand. Where did you gather this information from? Because it seems as though you were able to take life experiences and put them together.
And to your point, there has been a lot of life experiences where I captured that information from. But I've also talked to a lot of other HR professionals, other entrepreneurs that have had challenges in these areas. And so trying to help them understand how to best communicate and how to overcome some of the challenges they had gave me some really good insight on how to really kind of put this chapter together.
And so for me, it's probably the biggest challenge small business people have. I see it and hear it all the time. They cannot connect. They do not know how to talk to each other, right?
That is the greatest challenge we have, and it's our greatest challenge today, and it will continue to be our greatest challenge in the year or years ahead.
Why is it maybe it was happening, but I didn't see it when I was growing up? Was my dad having a hard time talking to me? Was my grandfather having a hard time talking to my dad? I mean, is this common and now I'm just the old one and see it?
I think the way the world was, the way society was, whether it be 20, 30, 40 years ago, was different. I think when you look at the way that we grew up, I mean, there was a track that we were on, and it was typically you're going to school, you're going to college, and you're going to get a job. And you basically, there was a level of formality and then maybe a level of respect where you basically went in and you worked hard and you listened and you asked questions. Today, the generations of people, the new generation, the younger generation coming in today, they are being very aggressive. They've got a totally different set of skill sets than what we ever had available to us.
And you know, what is also surprising me, I've got about 4 or 5 buddies of mine, their kids are a little bit older than mine, and they're out of college. And these are men that have spent their lives building these great businesses. Mm-hmm. Their children want to have nothing to do with it. It amazes them, right? They want to hand them these businesses, and their children are not motivated by money.
Exactly. They're motivated by purpose. So earlier this summer, I was able to speak at Georgetown University, and they had students there from all around the world. And that was the number one question that came up during that conference.
Chuck, my purpose was make money.
Absolutely. Well, yes, exactly. But to our generation, work and the work we did is our identity, and that was our purpose. Today, it's much more. It's about you're looking at how does the work I do, how does that impact not only myself and my family, but the community I live in, the environment, the society in general.
So when my friends hear that, and they get it because it's staring them in the face, they can't help but say, okay, so how are you going to feed yourself? To them,
right,
there is this misconnect, right? and you're suggesting that they're going to do that through purpose.
Absolutely.
So it's almost backwards. Because first we thought we could make money, and then we're going to go ahead and give to charity, right? They want to be part of that charity and hope that it makes them some money.
I think the reality, but what I want to stay away from on that, Joe, I want to stay away from painting that generation with a broad brush, because every one of us is unique. And so I can look at people in our generation as baby boomers, and we are completely different. So my strengths, I may have based on my experience and education, I may have one set of skill sets, and you may have something completely different. Same thing goes for the younger generation as well. I've heard so many times that is the entitled generation, that they don't want to work. And the reality is they are definitely willing to work, but they have to have the right reason to go to work. And so they are not focused on money.
But Chuck, I still got to get my product manufactured. I still have to sell these things. Somebody wants that toothpaste. Now, you might not think that the toothpaste is a big enough purpose in your life, but somebody's got to make it because you got to brush your teeth.
Absolutely. And so from the leadership perspective, we've got to be able to flip this and be able to understand how we can relate and be able to really be able to connect with their purpose and align that with our corporate and our company.
So I got to make toothpaste that makes you feel good in the morning. Now you got a purpose selling toothpaste that makes you feel good.
Some of this is messaging, correct?
Okay, I'm picking on you. You know that I am. Generation Z, what is that? I don't know what that is. Who is that?
That is our...
is that my son who's a senior in college? Or is it... who is that?
So that's basically going to be the ones that are in high school right now into early college.
Okay. So I really haven't experienced much of them in my life.
Well,
that's tomorrow's.
That's going to be your tomorrow's workers, though.
And the reason why I asked that is because you said something that's kind of interesting. They are most likely to not trust corporations.
That is correct.
That is really interesting because you're not going to go to work for a corporation you don't trust.
And I wonder, as we look at, by the time they get into the workforce, what is our world of work going to look like? Because you're still going to continue to have manufacturing, but you're also going to continue to have a growth in this gig economy that we're seeing right now.
Yes.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
As you look at these generations, are you seeing that they're going into, let's say, the Gen Zs, they want to become entrepreneurs? Where are these generations typically working? What industries?
I mean, again, they're looking at where their areas of passion are and what their purpose is, and they're looking at what the mission of organizations are. So they may very well align themselves with a manufacturing company, but they have to know, they have to be able to see online as well as from the leadership what that purpose is and what their mission, vision, values are.
You just hit it. You stepped right where I wanted to go. You got a section in your book that says how to build a multi-generational friendly company culture. Now, first of all, when I read this, see, Carolyn clapped at that. I kind of snarled at it like, give me a break, right? But it's real.
It is.
And you say, to create a company culture in which each generation needs to meet begins with the CEO or the business owner. That's right, business owner, that's you.
Yep.
As it must be personal conviction of theirs to be successful. As leadership builds the culture, they also establish its mission, vision, and value. And I've never, as a small business owner, hired somebody and had them ask me that question. But tomorrow they will, won't they?
They absolutely will. And if we don't have an answer for that today, we better sit down this weekend and figure it out.
That's right.
And please hear that, small business owners. Mission, vision, and value is what they're looking for. So when you can't hire somebody, it's because of you. It's not because the economy's bad or they're not out there or they got a check from Uncle Sam, you know, and so they got enough money they don't need to work. It's because they don't want to work with you. Am I hearing this correctly?
You're exactly right. And what I've...
Exactly. Gotcha, Chuck.
So I've got a friend of mine that's in the recruiting business, and he tells me every week, he tells me that you don't have a we can't find talent. You have a we can't hire you
That's
problem.
right.
So that's where the challenge is. And again, these younger generations are looking at business owners. They're not only looking at what's on the wall, they're looking at how are those people actually living
What is
out.
my character?
And the Google reviews, too.
The Googles. The Googles.
Good
That's
point.
right.
Well, and I must tell you something. This is such a major change from when I was growing up. You better work hard for him or you're not going to get a good referral. You know, now it's the exact opposite. The company is either going to get a good or bad referral.
Yeah, the tides.
Both of you guys are nodding, and it just frustrates the living dickens out of me that's the reality here.
Sorry, business owners, we got to change a little bit. That's
Yeah,
really
a
what
lot.
it comes down to. Yeah.
Well, because you do understand what's happened here now. Now I have to deal with the customer and the client, deal with the employee and their challenges right at the same time, right?
Yes.
All of this is happening at the same time, and they're pulling against each other at times.
They are, and the business owner is trying to figure out which issue is the most important because
Right.
I have to focus on running and maintaining an operation that's going to be profitable.
And it's typically the one that costs the problem that costs the most that they're dealing with.
Okay, to both you guys, is there a way that us small business people can discern what the values and the purpose are of the person we're getting ready to talk to? Because don't I want to make sure before I spend time interviewing them that there's a good fit? Because right now I think the problem is I'm not even looking at this. Until I read your book, I didn't know that his purpose mattered to my business, but it does, right? Because it needs to be a good fit.
And that's exactly again, the younger generation, that's exactly what they're looking for. They want to know that the work that they're doing has real meaning. It's not just for the paycheck, but it is for for the purpose and how it affects the community and how it affects the world and the environment that they're going to be living in.
If that's true, then manufacturing in this company and these menial type jobs, right, are going to get harder and harder to fill because they're not going to see purpose unless I create meaning and purpose manufacturing and doing these menial jobs, which means I'm going to have to totally reorganize how I structure these jobs to add meaning to them. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're correct. And this is just a moment in time where we are right now. A lot of this has taken place just since the pandemic. But the reality is when you look back over these challenges we're having with the people, it started probably back in 2010, 2011. And you can see on the graph that there was continuous growth and expansion in the challenges that they were having with their employees. So,
And what will be interesting is as time goes on, Robotics will fill in for these jobs that don't, that we cannot find these workers. Artificial intelligence, they're already seeing that years ahead.
Wow. And so you end this chapter by saying having a multi-generational workplace is, in fact, the opportunity for success. I'm going to have to hire and work with people like me, like my son, and like the high school kid, all of them with different values and purpose.
Correct. And so,
He wanted to say exactly. I know he wanted to say exactly.
I was so close. It's just that the challenge that the business owner has on that is being able to bring the strengths from each of those generations together to carry out the mission of the organization, and how you go about helping those generations be able to connect and be able to work together. Because that's where we're seeing a lot of disparity within companies right now, is there's a lot of turbulence between the baby boomers and the Gen Z because of the way that they do communicate. Finding ways to be able for them to be able to connect outside of work is really, really important for them to develop relationships so that you can have an ongoing mentoring program over the long term.
Ah, interesting. So the company softball team might be coming back strong.
Well, it could be.
Am I interpreting this correctly? She's laughing. It can't be softball. What do you want? Basketball? What do you want? What do you want?
Any of them. Any of them.
Climbing?
If they're hanging
Swimming?
out together, I don't care what it is.
Okay.
That's
But I'm
great.
saying this team, what I would call team building,
Yes.
is more and more valuable.
It is.
Absolutely. Whether you're talking college sports, whether you're college, getting together to do wine tastings, whatever that may be, everybody's got some interest. Being able to find ways for your people to connect around that is really important.
Interesting. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll keep digging into the book. If somebody wanted to reach you, Chuck, how could they do that?
The best way you can find me on LinkedIn and on all social media platforms. The other way is on our website, which is whitewaterconsulting.net or chuckcooper.info.
chuckcooper.info. He has written an exceptional book. I really like the book a lot after the first two chapters. Chuck, thank you so much for coming in. We really do appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And you can get that book on the website that he's talking about. Let's take a break and we'll come back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. If it's Friday morning, somebody's making fun of Joe. We'll be right back. And we're back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. This is News Talk WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. I am Joe Vagnone, and this is Local Biz Now, where we hope to inspire, inform, and entertain you for the entire hour. We are speaking with our guest, Chuck Cooper. He has written an exceptional book. Chuck, thank you so much for coming. We do appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a YouTube question. Okay. This is for my sexy new YouTube channel. Isaiah, I need you to plop up the YouTube channel so everybody can see how sexy it is. I have 43 subscribers. Chuck, I'm hoping you can get me to 44. You ready?
Ready.
Here's your question. What is the biggest challenge you have encountered so far in your business career, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest challenge I had was actually in one of the first businesses that I owned, and that is I let success, pride, and ego get in the way of decision making.
Yeah,
And
welcome to my world. Yeah.
And I realized as I went through that valley of life that being a business owner was not meant to be doing it alone, and that there's real value in having coaches and mentors in your life, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. And they will help us grounded when we make these great decisions that we think only us could make, And then when something bad happens, we always want to blame somebody. That wasn't me. That was somebody else. Got it.
Very true.
Got it, Chuck. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, Chuck, there's a question I want to ask. This is chapter 5 in your book, okay? And it says how to outsource. And that really connected with me because it seems like I never seem to know who I need to help me because I don't really know what my problem is, right? And so you guys are these outsource experts. Help me with this, right? Because most of the time, us small business people tend to pick the wrong person to help or the wrong time to bring them on board. How do I figure this out? And I think that's what I liked about your book, and I like about the service you provide. You're going to help with that.
Absolutely. And I think as I talked about in the book, I think that when it comes to the people side of the business, it's really important as entrepreneurs we figure that out, kind of what our strategy is going to be on that before we even get early on in the business, ideally before you even launch the business. So I think, but once you're in business and you're continuing...
That's a pipe dream. You know I'm not thinking about HR but when I start my business. You know that.
So how many times does a business owner really think about HR?
That's right. When it's in front of me.
Exactly. When it's a problem. Exactly. Right. And the reality is, why do we want to look at outsourcing? Because as a business owner, that is not where your strength and your passion is. And that's where I think you have the opportunity, when you hire your employees, you have the opportunity to carve your business into two. You want to stay focused as a business owner on growth, on managing expenses, and mitigating your liability. And let somebody else that's got HR experience and expertise actually handle the people side for you.
You know, what I find interesting is most of us small business people, when we started business, we thought we were going to be okay at this. Mm-hmm. Like, I know people. Carolyn, I can read you like a book. No problem, right? I've got to have some sort of personal skills to even get in business, right? So I'm thinking I got this covered. It's not until you realize, right. I really don't have this covered. And we all find a different time that we run into that.
I've seen that. One of the reasons I started the company of WhiteWater Consulting was because of the fact that I've seen so many times entrepreneurs asking that question of how do I know who to bring in, when to bring them in. And so over the years, I've been really fortunate, Joe, in the fact that I've been able to build this amazing network of expertise or subject matter experts to really deliver on their services. So I think that that's one of the values that we're able to bring is the fact we've got this time-tested platform and people that we can bring to our clients. And so you don't have to worry about that. We know that we're bringing some really good people to our clients.
Right.
And Joe, you know, there's something really interesting here. So Chuck and I both have experience, enterprise-wide experience, owning businesses. So we've sat in all these seats, or at least spent time with executives who have. So we're able to see it in a different way. So my advice to small business owners is when they reach that point where they really need help, start asking around about business coaches or some kind of coach that has a real good understanding of how to run a business, because that's where you can start, and they may just recommend somebody else and start there.
You know, for me, years ago, I had mentors, and there wasn't a lot of coaching going on back then. And for me, the best thing about this modern business environment, there are plenty of people willing to help. So you can hand pick, call them a coach if you want to, but they end up being able to mentor you and help you. And Chuck, I can see you doing that for a lot of business people, because clearly, I can just tell when you read the book, you are not singly focused when you're trying to help your client. I think that's what jumped out at me.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, Joe, because that's what my real hope was that they would be able to see that I absolutely am coming in very, very objective. I need to get to know what's going on within the business before I can even begin to start to make recommendations on what's going to be the right fit for them.
You know, one of your chapters talks about compliance, and everybody thinks, oh, I got this, I can do this. And it reminds me of years ago, I hired this wonderful young woman. She was just great, right? And she only wanted to work part-time, and because she could walk to work. And I hired her about 10 cents, 20 cents more than minimum wage at the time. Never thought about her again. She worked with me for 9 years. Wow. Well, we never adjusted her pay.
Oh, my.
And we end up literally underpaying her under minimum wage because she just
Don't know.
remember I had 175 employees. It was just more than I could manage, and how horrible I felt that I had allowed this mistake to happen. In a time when and she knew that I just adored her. But this type of thing you want to make sure doesn't fall through the cracks, and so compliance isn't just about what your government wants and needs. It really is making sure that the entire firm is complying with your interests
Exactly.
and your wishes, because I would have never wished that.
Right, and I think that's a very, very good point. And the fact that it is about making sure your people are protected. As a leader and the owner of the company, you want to make sure that you're carrying out your mission, vision, values, and you do that through the processes and the policies.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, you understand that's 35, 40 years ago. It's one of the most disappointing, embarrassing things about what I did running a great company with a great group of people. I hated that I allowed that to happen. Yeah. It really is one of those moments. And so I say to you, make sure you're trying to prevent or at least put in place. For example, we'll put in place to make sure a customer is taken care of.
Yes.
Why didn't I do that for staff members? Because at the time, I thought I had it. I thought I could do it.
And I think that's where, again, business owners, they get so busy, and they are really, really good at sales and service and operations. But then when it comes to the people side, again, there's so many emotions that can come into play there as well. So taking a step back and having other people handle that for them is really helpful.
Chuck, the other thing I liked is you help people with insurance.
We do.
I mean, you will advise them in the insurance area, and that is one of the things that made me see you as this holistic helper.
Yeah, on the employee benefit side, we have a lot of great relationships, and I think that plays has a major impact on being able to attract these multi-generations to the workforce because they all have their own specific needs.
Right.
Okay, Chuck, so we got to go. We've got a minute. I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer this question. Please pick up this book. If you're a small business owner or advise a small business owner, Chuck's book is phenomenal. It is great. Chuck, what advice would you give a small business person that is thinking about starting a small business?
I think you want to really spend a lot of time on the front end of developing your business plan, having clear vision on what you want to accomplish in the first 12 to 36 months, and really be very, very crystal clear on your mission, vision, values, and purpose for your company.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. We've had a co-host, Carolyn Brand, for the entire month. She is spectacular. And we also have Chuck Cooper. Please go get his book. Chuck Cooper is the man.
Woo.
WhiteWater Consulting. If it's Friday morning, your business matters. See you next week.